Crazy astronomers on Earth and sky puzzles. As if the sky wasn't already mysterious enough, many astronomers decided to leave a mark of their earthly passage by scattering linguistic puzzles among the stars, sometimes for practical reasons, as we'll see, but much more often for the pleasure of engaging contemporaries and posterity in a mental treasure hunt. In chronological sequence, below are the most well-known occurrences in this regard. Johannes Kepler has been put to the test. Consider yourself an astronomer in the 17th century, when the telescope is altering the globe and celestial discoveries follow one another ceaselessly, provoking debates and diatribes about who discovered what first. Without scientific publications and the internet, how could you protect the priority of your discoveries without putting yourself at the mercy of competitors with late communications? Well, reportedly one of the most popular tactics was to put a hat on by sending an anagram to friends and rivals that, once deciphered, could prove the nature of the discovery. This manner, one could protect oneself from competition, always demonstrate the priority, and have time to calmly hunt for additional supporting data. For example, after astonishing the world by publishing the Sidereal Nuncius in March 1610, Galileo was confronted with something very strange the following July. Observing Saturn, the planet appeared to him to be formed by a bright central globe flanked by two smaller ones. It was impossible for his imperfect telescope to show him the ring that surrounded the planet, but the Pisan scientist, while perplexed about the true nature of the discovery, thought to take precautions by sending a message containing a sequence of 37 letters to his friend Kepler. A properly anagrammed string should have returned the Latin phrase, Altissimum, Planetam, Tergeminum, Observavi, which means I have observed the most distant planet tripled. A message announcing to the world that the most distant planet known at the time, Saturn, was shown to the telescope with something strange on its sides, the two loops of the rings. Kepler worked tirelessly to find the solution, but he was unable. All he got was a series of sentences, a couple of which, as happened with a second anagram that Galileo sent him in December of that year, became famous because they incredibly predicted realities that were completely unknown at the time, such as the existence of two Martian moons and the red spot on Jupiter. The solution was given by an Italian scientist the following November, but a question remains: what if the discovery of Saturn's odd shape had not been confirmed by additional observations? Galileo, on the other hand, would have played dumb, and even now we promise the unresolved anagram would have become an object of adoration and a symbol of ongoing attempts to interpret it. Alright guys, just a moment before we continue, make sure to join the channel, click on the bell, and you will help us make products of ever higher quality. The Dolphin Mysteries, the second most famous event of celestial puzzles, takes place in Palermo in the early 19th century, where the monk Giuseppe Piazzi, who was already famous for discovering the planet series on the night of January 1st, 1801, had finished compiling a new star list. An laborious task, with over 120,000 position measurements taken with the assistance of assistants who succeeded each other throughout the years, particularly with the young astronomer Niccolò Cacciatore. A paper published in 1814 was well received in the scientific community, with only minor criticisms directed at a less technical component, namely the proper names provided to more than 100 stars that had previously been unnamed. But, while most of these had the merit of referring to a recognizable Arabic etymology, there were a couple of clearly out of tune. On page 147 of the catalog, what the hell could the names Swalloson and Rodenev, attributed to alpha and beta stars of the small constellation of the Dolphin, mean? The famous English astronomer William Henry Smith, in particular, threw the stone, writing in his Bedford catalogue, Alpha and Beta Delphini appear in the catalogue of Palermo with the cacophonous and barbaric epithets of Swalloson and Rodenev, but neither in the Almagest nor in the books of other Arab authors there is a trace of a term from which, by an error of transcription, translation, or reading unfortunately, Giuseppe Piazzi vanished in 1826 and Niccolò Cacciatore vanished in 1841, so neither could be questioned in an attempt to solve the riddle. Many others attempted to solve the mystery, but the answer came only a few years later, thanks to the insight of another English astronomer, Reverend Thomas William Webb, who wrote simply in his Celestial Objects for Common Telescopes, 1859, a real bestseller at the time. It may appear presumptuous to offer a solution where other more eminent scholars have hitherto failed. But sometimes chance is luckier than wisdom. The letters of these strange words, Swalloson and Rodenev, read upside down, form the name Nicolaus Venator, which is easily recognized as the Latin version of the name of Nicol Cacciatore, assistant at the Palermo Observatory and editor of the catalogue in which these stars are named. Isn't it incredible? Even in the face of this happy and definitive solution, there would be no shortage of the most imaginative attempts to search at all costs for a classical etymology of the two names in the following years, not so much because of the limited diffusion of news at the time, as perhaps for the inability to truly believe in a playful celestial joke organized by austere characters such as those of the Palermo Observatory. A tendency that will have a little following in the astronomical community, who will choose to shift the problem's words from search for meaning to who can have been the author of such a bizarre thing. There is not a single star in the sky that explicitly reports the name of a real person, and while the identity was cleverly concealed by a linguistic trick, the fact that someone had thought to immortalize himself in the celestial empyrean appeared to many as an action unworthy of a man of science. So, in order to protect Giuseppe Piazzi's image and memory, the scapegoat of the entire affair was quickly identified in the person of Nicol Cacciatore, to whom was attributed the boastful claim of wanting to leave a personal mark in the sky without the knowledge of the astronomer from Valtellina. But is it really that simple? We have our reservations. Piazzi's scientific personality was such, and his character so strong, that it is difficult to believe that he did not have complete control over the edition of a catalogue. Thus, there is only one last hypothesis to be examined, that of Piazzi's conscious decision to propose a dual objective. The first is to honor Cacciatore's close and faithful partnership, which lasted nearly 3 lustrums of shared observations. The second is to recognize Cacciatore as the designated heir to the observatory's direction. In fact, the decision to name 2 stars in the Dauphin after Nicolaus Venator is overly symbolic, with a clear reference to the term that, as it is known, is also used to indicate the heir to the throne of France and, by extension, the heir of any institution. Cacciatore, in fact, took over from Piazzi in 1817 and directed the Palermo Observatory for 24 years until his death. However, one last concern remains: are we certain he was aware of Piazzi's puzzles? In memory of, and so we arrive at the final and most recent puzzle of this brief survey, this time set in the chaotic realm of asteroids, the only celestial objects, as far as we know, to whom discoverers can give names of their choosing. And we can undoubtedly argue that among the many thousands that already have one, a piece of astronomy's complete history passes, made of people and crossed fates, with linguistic peculiarities and hidden cultural references whose meaning may have faded with time. The most prominent example is that of the German astronomer Gustav Streeck, who stipulated in his testamentary dispositions, for whatever reason, that his memory should not be named after any asteroid. To get around Gustav's extreme will, we thought of his friend Carl Wilhelm Reyenmuth, a well-known planet hunter who discovered a dozen in the first days of October 1931 and named them in the following order: 1227, Geranium, 1228, Scabiosa, 1229, Tilia, 1230, Ricciae, 1231, Auricula, 1232, Cortusa, 1234, Elena. Apparently just a manic tribute to his botany enthusiasm, since these are all plant names, but actually a means to commemorate his dead companion through the initial of each flower. GSTRACKE, a long-kept secret, like who knows how many others hidden within the 20,000 things given proper names so far. Do you want one more example? Try to match the initials of the names, easy to find on the internet, of the asteroids classified with numbers ranging from 8585 to 8600.